In the latest iteration of Batman on the big screen, we saw the continued resurgence of Robert Pattinson through his portrayal of DC darling Bruce Wayne. Critically acclaimed, the film marks, in my opinion, the best depiction of Batman in a live-action capacity. From the character design, cinematography, soundtrack, you name it, this film stands alone as breathing real life into the icon outside of his adventures in the animated universe. Pattinson shines as the Caped Crusader who's lost himself to the spirit of vengeance. Introduced in full force, the Dark Knight lives up to his namesake early in the film, establishing him as a symbol of fear in Gotham, with criminals appearing afraid to step out into the darkness of the city streets. All the while, Kurt Cobain whispers his message of chaos and disorder through his foreboding something in the way. A foreshadowing of the battle to come at the climax of the film, and reflective of Bruce's own inner turmoil. With plenty of essays exploring just how great the film was, I want to take a step further in analyzing the commentary of this movie and its exploration of Batman in the age of social media. The heavy-handed critique of radicalized keyboard warriors in a time of extremes gives us a lot to work with, and that message is what I'll be dissecting in this essay. And so without further ado, let's dive right in.
Principal reason why I should delete my social media? And if so, what is it?
There are two. One of them is for your own good, and the other is for society's good.
Social media thrives off extremism. There is no room for nuance between a thumbs up or down, and the gulf is only bridged by the vitriol that can be conjured for opposing viewpoints.
Capitalism has come to shape our politics and culture in ways that many people don't perceive.
ISIS-inspired followers online, and now white supremacists are doing the same.
Recently in India, internet lynch mobs have killed a dozen people, including these.
Like the parasite that it is, it feeds off of the need to dehumanize, desensitize, and destroy opposition to your worldview.
We know the truth, don't we? You've seen Gotham's true face now. Together, we've unmasked it. It's corruption, it's perversion, masquerading under the guise of...
Behind the mask of anonymity, we can sink lower and lower into these personas.
And to get your attention. Now, social media was designed to keep you on it. They don't call it surfing the web for nothing. First of all, a web, what do you do with a web? A spider knows what you do with a web. You capture flies, you liquidate their innards, and then you suck the life out of them, and then there's just a shell lying there on the web.
These ideologies that help us to numb the pain and emptiness within our own lives. And just as we wear those masks of anonymity, so too does the Batman and his counterpart in the film, the Riddler.
It's not just that it's controlling where they spend their attention. Especially social media starts to dig deeper and deeper down into the brainstem and take over kids' sense of self-worth and identity.
Closer than they appear, the Batman's brand of justice as a symbol of vengeance inspires a violent interpretation that takes it one step too far.
I'm vengeance.
It's hard to deny that Bruce Wayne's own story makes for some incredible clickbait. The son of two billionaires murdered after a family outing. It's not hard to imagine how news agencies would be salivating for a chance to break this particular story.
Instilled in both of us, that giving back is not just an obligation, it's a passion. That is our family's legacy.
And remember, for every one of these, for every hospital admission, there's a family that is traumatized and horrified. My God, what is happening to our kids?
To understand just how toxic our relationship is to the media we consume, we need not look any further than the supposed demise of Kate Middleton on Twitter, and the negative assumptions made from her disappearance from the public eye. Strangers who had no real concern for the royal, and yet occupied themselves as if she owed them her presence. Ultimately dispelling the rumor through the admittance of her falling ill to cancer, and in a similar case, the death of the Waynes was used to further culture war agendas. To the elites, it serves as proof that there's no saving grace to the lower class in our society, that Joe Freeze is only possible due to this long leash that we've given the unmentionables. To others who ascribe to an eat the rich philosophy, Freeze is simply chickens coming home to roost, the product of an environment that could create billionaires in the first place.
Will determine your reality. What you give your attention to will determine your reality. What does that mean? It means that if you're always watching news about crime, you're going to think that crime is far more prevalent than it actually is, and you will be scared. You'll be walking around thinking, like Chicken Little, that the sky is falling.
Their deaths magnifying the ills of a city on edge. Gotham, so often characterized by its pitch darkness, the only thing keeping it alight being the sirens of law enforcement. The city itself is a personification of extremism.
It was about sowing total chaos and division in society.
This was in Huntington Beach, a march.
It's about making two sides who couldn't hear each other anymore, who didn't want to hear each other anymore, who didn't trust each other anymore.
Bruce Wayne in this version of Batman chooses the extreme of merciless justice. He uses his parents' death as a reason to exact a never-ending war on crime, blocking out the pain from his childhood through physically maiming the so-called element he describes in the beginning of the film.
Hidden in the chaos is the element, waiting to strike like snakes.
And by ascribing to them this vague title, engages in the same dehumanization as the Riddler, who murders his targets in cold blood.
I gave you nothing.
You showed me what was possible.
You showed me all it takes is fear and a little focused violence. You inspired me.
It overwhelms human weaknesses. This point being crossed is at the root of addiction, polarization, radicalization, outragification, vanityification, the entire thing. This is overpowering human nature, and this is checkmate on humanity.
Bruce's worldview is challenged in multiple instances in the film, despite his unwillingness to bend. Examples such as Selina Kyle's friend, whose relationship with Falcone allows him to trivialize her death because of her relationship to the underworld, or his smug disdain for Selina's own relationship with Falcone.
It means your choices have consequences.
Jesus Christ. Choices? You know, whoever the hell you are, you obviously grew up rich.
Was it worth it?
What?
Compromising yourself for money?
Until realizing that he's her father.
I want to know why a guy like Falcone would owe you anything.
Because he's my father!
Bruce is similar to the Riddler because he imposes ideology without any mercy. In fact, the critique of ideology throughout the film shows that it has no rooms for misgivings. The Riddler was willing to kill Bruce Wayne just by the association of his parents with the mob.
But when the reporter refused, Wayne turned to longtime secret associate Carmine Falcone and had him murdered.
The package was intended for you. It was a C4 explosive sent in a mailer. You found this too.
And this dehumanization through earlier versions of media, often referred to as newspapers for the younger members of the audience, is exactly what drove Thomas Wayne to turn to Falcone in the first place.
He wanted me to handle it, so I did. I handled it.
The possibility that a reporter could take advantage of his wife's illness to tear apart his bid at a political change in Gotham showed the early inklings to a beast that's now run amok in the world, where at least journalistic integrity was required to print libel in the papers. Rumors and conspiracy are the order of the day in the space now. Bruce realizes upon learning of his father's dealings with the criminal element in Gotham, not in any illegal sense, but operating within the gray areas that exist in all of our lives, just how tangled and complicated the people are that he's reduced to caricatures and labels, with which he uses to both save and maim.
All these years, I've spent fighting for him, believing that he was a good man. He was a good man. Listen to me. Your father was a good man.
It's a marketplace that never existed before. And it's a marketplace that trades exclusively in human futures.
It's from this moment that Bruce realizes his power beyond the cowl, and thus is able to reconcile his identity with the Batman. He comes to realize that the scales of justice are just that, scales. Not a gavel, not a like or dislike, but a measured approach that weighs the circumstances and context in a balanced approach. Or at least, that's the best that we can hope for.
Feeling of being targeted.
Finally, online anonymity means no repercussions for being nasty. Add all this together, and you get what psychologists call
the online disinhibition effect. And effectively, it dictates that people will do things online that they wouldn't do in the real world.
The technology's ability to bring out the worst in society, and the worst in society being the existential threat.
Justice should not only be blind, it should strive to be fair. And however much we might not agree with the premise in reality, that is its purpose. The dangers of ideology is that it leaves no room for mercy, for grace and understanding of circumstance. There is no context in a court of absolutes, just judgment. And in this way, Batman learns from this film the valuable lesson of nuance, that living in the extremes, in the shadows, An ideology that reduces human life to the apparition he deems as part of this criminal element is as much of a danger as Falcone's that reduces all of life into gray areas.
Do I know it for a fact? I'm just saying it sure looked that way to me.
The Batman is not only a symbol of hope at the end of the film, but the defender of humanity in the face of these movements that create the us versus them mentality we so often find in discourse on social media.
When the time arrives, I will already be unmasked. The pigs will have me in their custody, but that's okay. Because then, it will be your turn.
That people are more than their affiliations, more complicated and complex than any label we could hope to categorize them with, is antithesis to the type of dialogue on online forums. That's why they're called comment, not discussions. And in the same way, our attempts to do so only serve to distance ourselves further from others. And like Bruce finds out in this movie, it's all about the human at the end of the day. Because when eyes connect, there are no masks that can keep us separated.
You're a pathetic psychopath. Begging for attention. You're gonna die alone. No. A nobody!
Hey guys, thanks for all the comments, and a special thanks to everyone for the tips on detonators.
I want to thank you all who stay tuned in. I hope you can give me a like, subscribe, and comment if you appreciated anything about this video. Feel free to explore my channel more for other essays. If you're so inclined, my Patreon is set up now to help the channel grow. And as always, thank you for watching.